Don't know why it is taking so long to upload. Yes, so HIV transmission is affected by several hosts and recipient factors. So host is the person that is having HIV and AIDS. The recipient is the one that is going to have the HIV transmitted to him or her from the host. So these factors can be divided in three ways. We have biological factors, we have social-cultural factors, and we have behavioral factors. What are those biological factors that normally causes the spread of HIV or transmission of HIV to be very high? What are these social-cultural factors that normally increases the spread of the HIV transmission? What is those behavioral factors that normally also increases the spread of these disease? So the first factor is biological factors. So, and these are number of biological factors, the number of biological factors that influence HIV transmission. And the first factor is disease status of the source or the host. How has how has the disease spread in the body of the host? For example, is the host taking ARVs? If the host is not taking ARVs, definitely the HIV load or the number of HIV virus in that person will be very high. And the more the HIV in a person, the more they are likely to spread to other people using the various mechanisms that we saw or during the various mode of transmission that we saw earlier. So when you have a lot of HIV virus in you, we normally say that you have the viral load in you is very high, or the number of viruses in you is very high. And when the number of the viruses in you is very high, definitely this virus will fight your immune cells. And once your immune cells are fought, majority of them, they will die. And what is, how do we call that condition? We say that you're immunosuppressed. Your immunity is very low because your immune cells are also very few in number. So you're immunosuppressed. So this is related to the degree of immunosuppression of the source of person or the of the source person infected with HIV and AIDS. And this immunosuppression, I've said, is caused by high viral load in that person. So the more severe the immunosuppression, the higher the viral load in the person, and therefore higher risk of transmission of HIV and AIDS. So there's some people, even if you have sex with them, if the viral load is very low such that they even test negative when you test them, they will rarely transmit the HIV to you. But when the viral load is very high, there'll be a number or a lot of virus in the modes or in the means of transmission. For example, when it comes to the blood, they will have a lot of viruses. When it comes to semen, it will have a lot of viruses, and that will increase the transmission of the HIV to the negative person from the positive person. So there is therefore a high risk of transmission during the primary infection stage and also during the late stage when the viral load is very high. When the viral load is very high, transmission will be high, whether it is from the first stage of HIV and AIDS or whether it is in the last stage of HIV and AIDS. Remember the stages that we covered? Yes. So the risk of transmission are also higher when the CD4 counts are low, independently of viral load and where the virus is resistant to antiviral drugs. So this statement indicates that definitely when the virus are very high in the body, the CD4 cells will be also very low because they will die. Majority of them will die. Then when, for example, you're not adhering to the drug regime, you're not adhering to the drug timings. For example, you're supposed to take the ARVs in the morning, maybe at 7 a.m. and in the evening at 7 a.m. You're supposed to have a 12 hour period. So if you decide that you'll be taking ARVs at 6 in the morning, you need to be taking the other type or the other dose of ARV at 6 p.m. to make sure that you have 12 hours a gap. But for example, you fail, you're not adhering to that regime, whereby you're taking maybe today you take at 7 a.m., tomorrow you take at 6 a.m., the next day you take at 12 p.m. So all this, and maybe you default or you don't take some days you forgot to take some or the drugs, other days you take them. So all this normally increases the virus resistant, such that the antivirus are not fighting the virus. They have no effect on so when you default either in timings and also you don't follow the timings, and also you default in days or even in times or even in doses, or even you fail to take the drugs for a long period of time, the ARVs, the virus is very tricky. It normally starts to develop or to mutate. Mutation normally changes the virus RNA such that the ARVs that are geared to prevent the HIV virus to replicate or multiply in you will not work on the HIV virus, because the HIV virus are already resistant to those ARVs. So it is very, HIV and virus is very tricky viruses, because they normally mutate when you blunder or when you fail to do the right thing. They normally mutate such that they're resistant, or they become resistant to the ARVs. So those are some of the biological factors that normally increases the HIV transmission. So resistance of the virus to ARVs, high viral load, low immunity or immunosuppression contribute to the disease status of the source. So if the source has high viral load and the virus are resistant to ARVs, definitely it's like 100% that they will transmit the HIV to you. But if, for example, the source or this host is taking the drugs well, the HIV virus is not resistant to the drugs they're taking, because they are following the right regime. And also, they are, due to that, the HIV virus will be fought by the ARVs they're taking. And due to that, the immunity will be boosted. And remember also, if this person is not taking or is not abusing drugs, is living a healthy lifestyle, taking the right food or eating the right diet, all this normally contributes to the immune boosting. And when the immunity is boosted, the viral load will be very low. The CD4 cells will also be very high, and due to that, it will be less likely that they will transmit the HIV virus to a negative person. Then the second, we are still under biological factors, don't get confused. That was on the disease status of the source. Then the second type of biological factor is presence of untreated sexually transmitted illnesses, STIs, in the source and in the person at risk. So when you have STIs and you are HIV positive, definitely you will have ulcers. Utakuwa na tuvindonda. These ulcers that normally comes with the STIs normally increases the shedding of the HIV virus too, and that exposes the other person to getting the HIV virus from the source. Another thing, these STIs definitely will affect the immunity of the source. And remember, when the immunity is affected, the viral load will hike or will increase in number. And due to all these factors, there'll be a lot of HIV virus in the secretion from these people suffering from the STIs. So both ulcerative and non-ulcerative STIs, so ulcers ndizo naita vidonda. So both ulcerative and non-ulcerative STIs are important cofactors in HIV transmission. They result in increased shedding of HIV virus from the source and better reception of the virus in the person at risk. So remember, we are dealing with two people here. If the person who is the source of the HIV is having the STIs, and the same case, the person who is negative is still having the STIs, both the person at risk will be very highly likely that they will be receiving this HIV virus. Because I've said they result in increased shedding of HIV from the source, and if you have ulcers, they will receive the virus very fast. So HIV virus from the source and better reception of the virus in the person at risk. So STIs therefore result into high viral load in genital secretion. The vaginal secretion, the semen secretions, or this semen will have a lot of this viral load if you have STIs, whether you are the source or the person at risk. So, and the disturbance of the genital mucosa. What am I saying? What is the genital mucosa? The inner lining of the vagina, as well as the inner lining of the penis. It's what we call genital mucosa. And the work of that mucosa is to protect the vagina and the inner parts of the sexual part of a human being from being attacked by any microorganism. So, for example, if your skin is broken, if you have a cut and the skin is broken, microorganism will easily attack your body because the skin acts as the first defense mechanism against microorganisms. So if that skin is not intact, microorganism will enter your body easily. The same case here. If the genital mucosa or the inner lining of the sexual part of a human being is compromised by these STIs, remember, majority of this STI normally compromises the outer lining of these sexual parts or the sexual organs of a human being. So if the genital mucosa is compromised, definitely when this source deposits high viral load genital secretion to that part or to that genital mucosa that have been compromised, definitely the virus will easily enter into the body or into the blood of the negative person. So once the genital mucosa is breached by either the ulcers caused by STIs or the resultant inflammation, it's like I'll explain with a person who has been burnt by hot water or hot tea inside your mouth. How is the mouth look like? Or how does the mouth look like together with the tongue? So that's a kind of inflammation. So if you have these STIs, they may cause the genital mucosa to be compromised, or if the genital mucosa is not compromised, there will be inflammation of the genital mucosa. So this inflammation, it normally also opens ways for the virus to enter the system or for the virus to enter the body easily. So the virus can easily gain entry into the bloodstream of the person at risk. So STIs are a major reason for the high prevalence of HIV in Africa. So remember, I've said this. If the person who is HIV positive have STIs, they will release a lot of HIV virus when it comes to blood, when it comes through the genital secretion, when it comes even through the breast milk, they will have a lot of virus in those secretions. If the person who is at risk or who is having sex or who is exposed to the blood with HIV from the person with HIV virus also is having the STIs. Remember, the STIs compromises the mucosa or the outer lining of the of the sexual parts of the human being. So if the outer lining is breached or have entry of the virus, or that will allow the virus to enter, definitely the high virus in the person who is having the STIs, or even the high virus of the person who is not even having the STIs, because it doesn't mean that high virus will only occur in the person with STIs, will gain entry, and this entry will be very easy to the person who is having STIs and not having the HIV and AIDS. So this transmission will be easy due to the breached mucosal lining of the sexual parts. So far under biological, we've covered two things. Under biological, the disease status or the HIV status of the person who is the host will increase transmission. The second thing is that presence of STIs on both the host and the recipient will also increase HIV transmission. And I've said it will increase HIV transmission because the viral load will be high in the person secreting, in the secretions, and also the person who is at risk of getting the HIV will have breached genital mucosa, which increases the rate of transmission, or which increases the amount of, let me say, reception of the HIV or the entry of the HIV inside them. So I don't know why it is taking a lot of time to load. Let's give it time. The third is circumcision status. Uncircumcised men are twice as likely to acquire HIV as uncircumcised men. Uncircumcised men are also more likely to acquire other classical STIs. So the circumcision normally remove a part of the penis, and that part that is removed normally increases the chances of HIV transmission or HIV entry into the person. So if that part is removed, when that part is removed, which is soft and can easily allow the entry of HIV to that person, what happens to the exposed part of the penis normally hardens. So the hardening of the skin that is left behind normally reduces the chances that the HIV will enter the person who is circumcised, unlike the person who is not circumcised. Another biological factor is gender differences in susceptibility, where women are particularly vulnerable to HIV infection. Sexual transmission of HIV occur more easily from men to women than from women to men, because I said the surface area under which HIV may be deposited in a woman is larger as compared to the surface area where the man is, where the man is exposed to the virus. So the vagina has a larger surface area as compared to the penis. Yes. So due to that, HIV can be easily transmitted from a man to a woman and not the vice versa, not from a woman to the man, because I've said the woman have a larger surface area. They have a larger surface area where the HIV gets into contact or gains entry into the woman, as compared to the man. So those are the biological factors that normally influences the spread of the HIV. We have the disease source or the disease status of the HIV status or HIV and AIDS status of the source. We have presence of sexually transmitted infection on both the host and the recipient. Circumcision status, and I've said for those who are uncircumcised, they have a skin that is soft, which allows the entry of HIV virus. For the circumcised one, the skin that is left behind or that is exposed by removing the outer skin normally hardens such that the HIV will not gain entry easily into the circumcised person. Then we have gender differences in susceptibility. Women have a larger surface area where the HIV will gain entry into the human or into the woman as compared to men who has a smaller surface area. Then the second factor, those were biological factors. The second factor is social factors that influences HIV transmission, and this is a major factor that normally contributes to the transmission of HIV, especially in Africa and developing world. So various socioeconomic factors increases the risk of infection, such as we have social mobility and global economy, that is more people are traveling and working away from home. HIV AIDS follow the routes of trade and commerce. Partner living apart contribute to the spread. Men have sex with prostitutes, contract HIV, return home to their wives who contract HIV and pass it on their infants in utero or through breast milk. So this social mobility or movement of people from one place to another nowadays is not like in early ages, where in early ages only movement were through walking. There was no many means of transport. Nowadays we have aeroplanes, we have where people are moving from one country to the other within a day, one country to the other, one county to the other, one area to the other, where people are working in different locations from their spouses. And due to this, people obviously normally engage into sexual activities when they move. Even if you're not married, some of them will have sexual partners from different areas, from different counties, from different countries, from different even continents. And due to this, if this person is infected, they will transmit the HIV wherever they'll go. If they move to Nairobi, they go to Kakamega, they leave that HIV, and whoever is left with the HIV have other partners. So this spread will, due to this social mobility, the spread will increase and increase because people are moving from one area to the other. And whoever is left behind will also transmit to either their children or their spouses or their mipango za kando. And due to all this social mobility or movement of one place to the other of people, definitely this increases the spread of the infection worldwide or globally. Then another social factor is stigma and denial. These are two different things. Denial is when you are told that you have the HIV but you've not accepted. And if you've not accepted, you will not take the cautious means of living. You will not eat well, you will not have good sexual behaviors, you still have a lot of partners, you will not take the ARVs, you will not live taking drugs that normally also affect your immunity. And due to all that, you'll have a lot of HIV in you and you'll transmit of the HIV to other people if you're not accepting that you have the HIV. But once a person accepts, they will be able to take the ARVs well, they will be able to live a good lifestyle, they will also be able to live socially upright life with socially accepted behaviors. And due to this will reduce the transmission as well as the viral load in that person. Remember the effect of high viral load in a person. So denial normally also prevent the transmission of the HIV from one person to the other. Normally increases the transmission, sorry. When it comes to stigma normally comes with people not accepting you if you're HIV positive, where the people will look down on you. They will also not associate with you because they are feeling that once they associate with you, you will have they will transmit the HIV to them, or they are looking down on you because they think that you're immorally not upright. That's why you have the HIV, which we normally experience each and every day. This is normally there each and every day. Once a person in a home, not even a village, live alone the village, in a house, they're known that they are HIV and AIDS positive. If that home is full of stigma, this person will not be able to live a social life, because these people will start looking down on you. They will see as if you'll die the next minute. They will see as if you'll transmit the HIV to you, to them. They will see as if that you're very immoral, that's why, or you're being cast, or you're such an immoral person, that's why you have this HIV. And due to stigma, people will not disclose that they have the HIV. They will not even take drugs, or they will default taking drugs because they don't want to take the drugs to their homes. Once the people they're living with see the drugs, definitely they'll start stigmatizing them. So due to this, people will not disclose. They will not be able to be free to tell people about HIV because they are afraid of this stigma. So denial and silence regarding HIV are prevalent, but are currently changing in Kenya. Although nowadays people are coming out and people are accepting people that are HIV and AIDS positive. So although change is occurring, people with HIV are often stigmatized for many reasons. Why do we normally stigmatize these people? Number one, they normally see HIV as a slow, incurable disease resulting in illness and death. So once people think like HIV will slowly eat you and definitely will die, definitely they will stigmatize you. HIV is considered as a death sentence. People often do not understand how HIV is spread and are irrationally afraid of acquiring it from those infected with it. Due to this stigmatization and denial, people do not have this knowledge in them, do not understand how HIV is transmitted from one person to the other. So, and if they do not understand the spread of HIV and AIDS, if they do not understand how it is normally spread, so they will not know how even to protect themselves from the HIV. Another thing is HIV transmission is often associated with moral violations of social morals concerning sexual relations. So people with HIV are tainted with the notion of they having done something bad and very bad. So HIV is normally associated with moral violation or moral misconduct. You see people with HIV as very immoral, whereas each and every person is immoral in one way or another. And maybe even this person who is HIV and AIDS positive didn't get the HIV through sexual contact. They may get through other ways. So people do not want to admit that fatal disease spread by behavior branded as immoral could be rampaging through their community or country. They don't know associating HIV transmission with only immoral misconduct will increase the spread, because if people are not coming out or are not disclosing their status because they're fearing denial and they're fearing stigma and they're in denial themselves, this increases the spread of the HIV. So people tend to stigmatize or blame certain groups for spreading HIV, for example, sexually promiscuous people or drug users. So all this normally increases stigmatization, and stigmatization normally lead to people denying that they have the HIV and AIDS. So stigma prevents people from speaking about or acknowledging HIV as a major cause of illness and death. Stigma prevents HIV-infected people from seeking care and from taking preventive measures. If you're stigmatized, even in hospital, how will you go to hospitals to take your drugs? If, for example, whoever the nurse you're going to find is your neighbor, and the neighbor will spread the rumor that you have the HIV once they know that you have the HIV, how will you be able to come out and go and seek the medical help from that nurse or from that doctor? So stigma normally increases the spread of the HIV and AIDS. So even when counseling and testing are offered, people may not want to know if they are infected for fear of being stigmatized. This fuels the spread of the disease. So when the counseling and testing are offered, people may not want to know if they're infected or fear of being stigmatized. This fuels the spread of the disease. So if you're fearing stigma, even being tested, people will still not go to be tested because they are fearing what will happen when I find myself positive. What will happen to my family? How will they view me once they know that I am HIV and AIDS positive? What will happen to my partner? What will happen to my husband? What will happen to my boyfriend when they know that I have HIV and AIDS? Will they accept me? Definitely no, if the stigma is very high in the society. And due to that, when people are not being tested, when people, for example, in a university or in a college or in a high school are not tested, and remember, majority of them are positive. You'll find the majority of people in college is very positive of HIV. If majority of them are not tested, definitely the spread will be very high because we have a lot of interaction in colleges. We have a lot of, what do you call them? What do you call these functions that comes at night when you go and you have fun and you take alcohol and the likes? We have a lot of people in colleges at high risk of this infection. So if people do not know themselves, and if they know themselves but they're still in denial, they will increase the spread of the HIV to other people. So stigma and denial is also very high in Africa, even if people are now accepting slowly the aspect of HIV transmission and HIV and AIDS. We still have a lot of stigma, especially in our rural areas and also in our urban areas. We still have this stigma, and this stigma normally contribute to people denying or living in denial that they are positive, and due to that they will really spread the HIV to the negative people. So another sociocultural factor is people in conflict, where context of war and struggle of power spreads AIDS. And how do spread of HIV and AIDS, and this is not AIDS, it's supposed to be HIV. So how do people in war or even during emergencies spread the HIV? We have a lot of rape cases during wars. We have a lot of people fighting with machetes, with knives, with guns. We have blood spilling all over. We have sexual misconduct where people or women are raped, men are sodomized. All these things that happens during wars and during emergencies definitely normally increases the spread of the HIV virus. So these things or these misconducts that normally occurs in war, especially war, normally increases the spread of HIV. You also have, during war, people are normally very desperate because they don't have food, they don't have anywhere to sleep. So women may be forced even to become prostitutes and look for money in any form of or in any way that they will feed themselves and also feed their family. So due to all these, the spread of the HIV will increase. Then another social cultural factor is cultural factors, where traditions, beliefs, and practices such as wife inheritance, sharing partners, tattooings, HIV circumcision, during circumcision or initiation, all these cultural factors normally also increases the spread of HIV. Polygamy in our African culture will also increase the spread of HIV and AIDS, because if a person is having HIV and have 30 wives, what will happen to all those 30 wives? Definitely they will transmit, or they will get the HIV from the man. Or if one wife is having the HIV, definitely the other wives will also, her co-wife will also get the HIV transmission, or the HIV and AIDS virus. And if they have other partners, definitely the spread will increase. If they don't know that they have the HIV and they breastfeed, or they are pregnant, definitely also the transmission will go to their unborn children. So these cultural factors will also increase the spread of HIV and AIDS. We also have traditional beliefs. What are these traditional beliefs that normally increases the spread of HIV and AIDS virus? Traditional beliefs such like HIV is a curse. If you believe that when a person gets sick, it can only be through curse, or it can only be through witchcraft, that a person has been bewitched, a person has been cursed. That's why they are thinning each and every day. They have a lot of diseases that are attacking them each and every day. So if you believe that diseases only come through those two, or even through other beliefs, this person will not go to take ARVs. They will not know that whatever they are having can be spread to other people. So due to that cultural factor, or due to these beliefs, people may transmit the So these traditions, these beliefs, these practices such as wife inheritance, circumcision, where one knife is being used to circumcise 50 people or even 100 people, due to this sharing of things, tattooings and other things, this will also increase the HIV transmission. Then another way, or another social cultural way, is through gender. And what is gender in our society, or how do we view gender in our society? So in many cultures, it is accepted for men to have many sexual relationships. In our African traditions, in our Kenyan tribes, men are normally allowed to have many sexual relationships and not women. So if a man is allowed to have many sexual partners, even if they have if they have this HIV and AIDS, they will definitely spread the HIV to other people, because they're not condemned. It's not like women. For women, they're normally condemned and they will do their things chini ya maji. But for men, majority of them do not hide having many sexual partners, because the culture has already allowed them to have these sexual partners. But if it was the vice versa, where we have no one is allowed to have or is accepted when they have many sexual partners, maybe we couldn't have this spread of HIV through sex as we are having right now, because men are normally are not condemned when they have many sexual relationships. So women often have an equal gender status in the culture. They're viewed as a minor or minority in our society, and therefore often need to use sexual exchange as a means of survival. You rarely find what do I call them, prostitutes that are made in our street, but majority of them are female. So this exposes them to unacceptable acceptable risks when they try to negotiate for sex, where many women are unable to negotiate of condom use, even when they are in open relationship or when they are prostitute. And due to this, spread of HIV will increase at a very fast rate in our society. Another social cultural factor is poverty. Now, how do poverty increase the spread of HIV and AIDS? So poor people lack access to information needed to understand and prevent HIV and AIDS. So majority of ignorant people, or people who lack knowledge concerning HIV, concerning even the spread of STIs, or even the STIs themselves, this information is really lacking in low socioeconomic class, in our slums, in our rural areas where we have poverty that is very high. People do not have this knowledge about HIV, leave alone the mode of transmission, the HIV itself. People do not have this knowledge. So majority of these people do not, and when you lack knowledge, you do not know how to prevent yourself from getting the disease, you do not have the information to help you how to overcome the HIV in you if you have the HIV. But if you're equipped with knowledge, you will be able to know how to prevent yourself from the HIV. And if you have the HIV, you'll also be able to know how to control the increase of the viral load in you. So ignorance of the basic facts makes millions of people worldwide vulnerable to HIV infection. Poverty undermines self-esteem and dignity. When you're poor, your self-esteem is normally very low. Your dignity is very low. You will exchange goods and services through sex because you don't have any other way. Your dignity is diminished such that you're open for anything. You're not cautious of anything because you're looking for what you will eat the next mealtime. And due to that, this self-esteem, this so low self-esteem, this low dignity, people will misuse your innocence, people will mistreat you in any way. For example, people that go to this Saudi Arabia and the likes as house girls. And I'm not saying that they are poor, but they go there when their dignity is normally lowered by whoever employs them. That's why you'll find the majority of them are raped because they don't know who to consult in those areas or in those countries. They don't know who to go and tell what they are going through. So due to that, they are mistreated, they are sexually abused and all that, because definitely because these are about poverty. So it drives people to drive people to behaviors to meet their basic needs, or they drive people to behaviors that normally expose them to HIV. This behavior exposes them to high risk of HIV transmission through commercial sex, substance abuse, violence, especially sexual violence. This access to medical and health care due to poverty also makes them more vulnerable to effects of HIV and AIDS. In poor areas, you'll find pregnant women never going to clinics because that's a less worry to them. They have a lot to think about. They have a lot to bother them. So you'll find majority of them do not even access clinics when they're pregnant. And remember, the clinics is where majority of women normally know their status. Majority of women know their status through pregnancy or through the first clinic of pregnancy where they're tested the HIV. You rarely find people going directly or voluntarily to get tested. So due to this lack of healthcare services or lack of healthcare seeking behavior in majority of these poverty-stricken areas, this increases the spread of the HIV needs. Then the eighth cultural, social-cultural factor is drug abuse and alcohol consumption. These drugs and alcohol consumption normally affects your brain such that you have impaired judgment. And if you have impaired judgment, you will easily involve yourself into sexual misconduct, risky behaviors, accidents, where still the HIV can be spread from one person to the other. And during drug abuse, there'll be sharing of needles and equipment, sharing of needles. So due to these sharing of needles and equipment when you're abusing drugs, and also impaired judgment when you're under influence of these two, definitely the HIV and AIDS transmission will also be very high. So those are the social cultural factors that normally increases the spread of HIV in our society. We have social mobility, we have stigma and denial, we have people in conflict, cultural factors, gender, poverty, drug use and alcohol as the factors under the social cultural factors. The last factor that influences HIV transmission is behavioral factors. And behavioral factors are behaviors that we normally involve ourselves in each and every day. This includes multiple sexual partners. Definitely when you have multiple sexual partners, they will spread the HIV if one partner is HIV positive. And then whoever gets the HIV positive HIV virus from this person will spread to other people, and this chain of infection will increase each and every day. Unprotected sexual intercourse. If you have unprotected sexual intercourse, if you're not married and you're involving yourself into sexual misconduct, and this sexual misconduct is unprotected, definitely you'll have the spread of HIV. Then large age difference between sexual partners. So how can large age difference between sexual partners increase the HIV transmission? I want you to type and tell me how large age difference. Or you can open your mic, we'll adjust the three of us. Open the mic and tell me how large age difference between sexual partners increases the spread of HIV and AIDS. So Merab, Alvin, tell me, open your mics and tell me how large age difference between sexual partners increases the spread of HIV and AIDS.
Older people are much more vulnerable to getting the HIV,
yes,
like young people.
I can't hear you, Alvin.
Older people are much more vulnerable.
Yes.
Older people, they get HIV and AIDS easily because their immunity is weak, unlike the young people.
Okay. What about Merab? Can you try? Why is large age difference between sexual partner increase the HIV? Why do having sponsors, college girls or even high school girls having sponsors increase the spread of HIV and AIDS? Merab, I'm waiting for you.
Sponsors, they interact with the different people.
Yes?
Sponsors
Uh-huh.
interact with different people.
So I'm not saying, yeah, true. I'm not saying that having large age difference between sexual partners, I'm not referring to the married people, because we also have old people, 70 years, marrying a 20-year girl. But if, for example, we are dealing with a sponsor situation where the sponsor is having a college girl in a place, this college girl definitely will also have another relationship with a younger person. So the same case, because maybe they're not satisfied by this old person, or even they're not feeling okay having an open relationship with this person, they will still find another person or another partner that is of their age. So, and due to these age differences, definitely the old will get the HIV, as Alvin said, easily from this younger partner, or if this older person have HIV, they definitely they will spread the HIV to the younger person. So due to this age difference, definitely these sexual partners or this young person will look for another sexual partner, and the spread will increase. So all these are behavioral factors. We can also add other behavioral factors. Drug abuse is a behavior. Still, drug abuse can increase the HIV, because we said drug abuse normally increases HIV transmission through impaired judgment. You're not thinking straight. Another thing is sharing of needles and sharing of this injection needles that they normally use during when they're using the drugs. So we are done with factors that normally increases the spread of HIV from one person to the other. We've covered biological factors. Alvin, you were late. We've covered biological factors. We've also covered social cultural factors. We've also covered the behavioral factors. For biological factors, we've covered disease status of the source. If the person who is having the HIV is immunocompromised, or their immunity is very suppressed, the degree of immunosuppression is very high, such that their viral load is very high and CD4 cells are very low, they will spread easily the HIV virus to a negative person. If the person who is HIV positive has STIs, I said their genital mucosa is compromised. The inner lining of the sexual parts is compromised, such that when this HIV lands, lands on that person whose genital mucosa is compromised, it will easily enter into the bloodstream. So let me repeat that, because I've mixed things here. When the host has STIs, their secretion, we have a lot of virus secretion through blood, through breast milk, through all this secretion, the vaginal secretion, the semen, and the likes. They will have a lot of this HIV, because obviously the immunity is compromised. Another thing, the mucosa or the genital mucosa is also compromised, such that once they're in contact with another person whose genital mucosa is also compromised, HIV will spread from the person who is HIV positive to the negative person. Another thing, if the recipient of the HIV virus or the person who is negative has STIs, and remember, STIs normally compromises the genital mucosa or the genital lining. If the genital mucosa is compromised and they have sex with a person who is having the virus will easily enter the negative person. Because I said the genital mucosa act like a skin. Once the skin is compromised, once the skin is broken, microorganisms that normally causes diseases normally enter the person very easily, enter to the bloodstream or to the body of the person very easily. The same case here, if the genital mucosa of the host as well as the recipient is compromised, HIV transmission increases. Circumcision status still under biological status. As person is circumcised, is less likely to acquire HIV transmission as compared to the uncircumcised one. For the circumcised one, the part that is removed during circumcision, the skin that is normally left behind or exposed normally hardens. So the hardening of that skin normally decreases the spread or decreases the entry of the virus into the body of that person as compared to the uncircumcised one. Then number 4 is gender differences in susceptibility, where I said women genital parts have a larger surface area, which normally increases the entry of HIV as compared to the male. Male have a smaller surface area that is exposed to the virus. So, and hence HIV or this virus will not enter, will less enter as compared to the female. Then the social factors, we had social mobility, where people are moving from one place to another, stigma and denial, people in conflict, culture, poverty, blah, 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 drug abuse and alcohol consumption. Those are social and cultural factors that normally increases the spread of HIV. Then we have behavioral factors, and those were the factors. Then, why are women more susceptible to HIV transmission? As already mentioned, sexual transmission of HIV occurs more easily from men to women than from women to men. And this is because, number one, women have a larger mucosa surface area to which HIV is exposed during sexual intercourse. I think I've already said that. Many women often experience trauma during sexual intercourse. During sexual intercourse, majority of women, due to friction, majority of the vagina part will have some cracks. And these cracks is what that increases the susceptibility of HIV virus moving from the male secretion to the female secretion. I've said this. The vagina is very weak. The inner lining of the outer lining of the vagina is very weak. So during sexual conduct or sexual intercourse, the friction between the two causes some breaking of the outer lining of the vagina. And due to that, HIV from the secretion of the semen or the semen will easily enter into the bloodstream of the woman. Due to this trauma I'm talking about, women have a longer contact time with HIV containing semen that gets deposited on the female genital tract. Due to this surface area, since I said women have a larger surface area, that normally increases the entry of the virus from the semen to the woman. So they have a longer contact time with the HIV because the semen is deposited on the vagina. So this contact time or longer contact time also increases the entry of the HIV virus to the woman. A living is asking, why is it that when males are circumcised, the rate of transmission is low, where when women are circumcised, are high or are highly vulnerable? So when women are circumcised, I normally hear that they normally remove the clitoris part. So when they remove the clitoris part, when they remove that part, I think the virus can easily enter the vagina. Let me not go into that more, but I think the way they normally circumcise, it increases. I think that's why the virus can easily enter the woman. But I think I'll look into that more because I didn't think of that. So Alvin, please go and research because I'm not very conservative on how women are circumcised. Is it okay? Alvin, go research, and also Marem, go research into that because I'm really not familiar on how that happens. But what I heard is that they normally remove the clitoris part. But I don't think the HIV virus transmission is highly on the circumcised people, on the circumcised women. Where did you hear that from? Where did you hear that from? From the internet, or where did you get the information from? From school. So I think go and look into that. Although I am not, I can't really figure out how circumcised women are more likely to be vulnerable. Because if, for example, they are circumcised and that skin is what? Is closed. The skin is not open. They are switched. Ama wameswitchiwa, wamefanya ni wameshonwa. So I don't get how the spread can increase, but we can still look into it. Next time, that will be the first thing to discuss, Alvin. So I want you to go and look into that, and also Marem, go and look into that for the next lesson. Is it okay? And then another thing, before I forget, I'll give you through the portal. I'll post the first assignment, and the first assignment, all of us will present next week. It will be a presentation. So I don't know whether you have ever presented, but it will be a presentation class. So next week, kila mtu atapresent. Sawa sawa, Alvin and Mareb.
Sawa.
Yes, you'll present and then also inform your classmates that they will present. So I was on how women are more susceptible to HIV transmission. So another thing, younger girls are particularly vulnerable to HIV and other sexually transmitted infection due to an immature and thinner vaginal mucosa. They are also more prone to ulcerations and tears during sexual intercourse. So younger girls have a softer, let me say soft, and softness comes with their vaginal mucosa is still immature and it's still very thin. So if it is immature and very thin, once they have sexual intercourse, due to the thinness and immaturity of this vaginal mucosa, they will tear and wear easily during sexual intercourse. And this tearing and wearing normally exposes the blood. And once the bloodstream is exposed, definitely HIV will enter the bloodstream very easily. So in many cultural settings, women are more likely likely than their male counterparts to be ignorant about sex, sexuality, and ways of protecting themselves from HIV infection. Even when they have knowledge, women often cannot take steps to protect themselves from HIV infection. The economic dependence on their male partners and the threat of physical violence make it difficult to negotiate fidelity or condom use. Who do you think who do you think in a family setup highly brings HIV infection in a family? Is it the man or the woman? I'm asking. Open your mics and answer me. Who do you think in a family setup brings home HIV infection more? Is it the male or the female?
Both can bring home.
Yes? Who do you think?
Both of
Is
them.
it, yes, both of them. But who do you think is more likely to bring home the HIV virus?
Maybe the woman.
Yes?
The woman.
The woman. Alvin. Mareb. Who do you think brings home the HIV more? Is it the female or the male?
The male.
The male. Why the male? Why the male? Why the woman? Nani Alvin?
Maybe the woman is not being satisfied the way she wants to be satisfied, and then she goes out looking for other people who can give her what she wants.
What about why male? Why male? Why male? Nani? Marab? Merab?
It's because like wanaume wanatafuta sana.
Ati wanaume?
They like play.
They like what?
Like hata kama wako na bibi lazima utapata wana play nje.
Oh, wanaenda nje wanaume. Okay, in our African setup. Let me ask this. In our African setup or in our homes, in our Kenyan cultural homes, who is allowed to have, or who is accepted, who is more condemned once they are caught on sexual misconduct? Is it the male or the female?
The female.
The female. Alvin, are we in agreement on that?
Pardon the question.
Yes?
Pardon.
Oh, pardon. Who is more condemned when they are caught in sexual misconduct? Is it the male or the female?
The female.
The female. Hapo tumeshikana. Si ndio tumeelewana? Then in our family setup, who is physically violated when it comes to sexual matters? Is it the male or the female? Who is sexually violated? More sexually violated?
It depends.
It depends on what? Defend your answer.
Some women, like they are mostly rough, and they how do I put it?
Yes.
Even it depends on what the partner wants. Maybe
it depends with what the partner wants with with the man.
Or with the woman. So as you can compare, it becomes a big issue.
Okay. Oh, okay, I get you. But kusema ukweli, Alvin, in an African setup, males are more okay. We have some female that are not sexually upright, but majority of the people that are not sexually upright are males. Is it true? Si ni ukweli hapo, Alvin? Wengi ni the male. And that's why you'll find majority of them being involved in the spread of this HIV and AIDS from one sexual partner to the other. Just because maybe the woman is not clean in the house, the woman is having a lot of children, this will cause that man to go to another woman. And not the vice versa. When the man is not clean, the man is irresponsible. You rarely find women going out. Some of them go, but not many. But the vice versa is true. Many men will leave their women because of silly and small things, or because they have given birth, they have added weight, they have a big potty, they will go and look for the minji. They normally call minji, or do they call them the what? The small girls who maybe have never given birth or something. Just because a woman gave birth, they're not as sweet as they were, or blah 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 blah, all those kind of things. This normally increases the spread because women are normally viewed as a minority in our community, such that male can do whatever they want with them. They can use and dump them. They can do whatever they provided they have money. They can use the money to lure the female, because majority of female see themselves also as minors. Once they see themselves as minors and the men are seeing them as minors, definitely they'll be misused. So all these factors will increase the spread of the women being more susceptible to HIV transmission. So why HIV transmission and circumcision? Why HIV transmission and circumcision and the relationship? So circumcision reduces the incidence of ulcerative STIs, which commonly involve the prepuce. On a circumcised penis, the glands becomes keratinized, or the part that is exposed once you're circumcised becomes keratinized. Keratinization is the hardening due to the deposition of keratin on that part of the penis. So keratinization is the hardening due to the keratin be deposited there, providing additional protection against HIV, whereas in circumcised penis, the gland is weak, more like a mucosa membrane or mucous membrane. I said that part is very weak or very smooth, such that HIV can enter the bloodstream through that part. The prepuce increases the surface area over which the virus can be absorbed. The prepuce ni hako ka skin kanatolewa. The glands ni hiyo skin or hiyo part ya skin yenye imekuwa exposed, or that part of the penis that have been exposed. So the prepuce increases the surface area over which the HIV virus can be absorbed. The inner surface of the foreskin contains Langerhans cells with HIV receptors. These cells are likely to be the primary point of viral entry into the penis of an uncircumcised man. So this prepuce or the foreskin contains these cells that normally have receptors of HIV virus. So we have seen two things. The prepuce is very weak. That's such that the HIV can easily enter or pass through the prepuce into the bloodstream of the man or into the inner side of the penis. Another thing, it contains some cells that we normally call Langerhans cells, which forms as a receptor. What is a receptor? A receptor is something that receives the HIV. They contain these receptors that normally increases the entry of the HIV into the uncircumcised man. After sexual intercourse, the prepuce encloses as a pocket of vaginal fluids around the neck of the penis, hence increases the contact time between the penis and the HIV-carrying genital fluids. So since this part is very flexible, ni kakitu ka weak that is very flexible. Once you are sexually active or once you're involved in sexual intercourse, it will enclose in a pocket. It changes because it is moving. It encloses and pockets the vaginal fluids. So the fluids will increase, or the fluids will stay a longer time on the surface of the penis as compared to a circumcised person. A circumcised person who have been removed the foreskin, the vaginal fluid do not stay for a longer time because hakuna pocket, hakuna kitu inashikilia that vaginal fluid. But if there was something that was holding the vaginal fluid for a longer time, that is the prepuce, how the prepuce does. The vaginal fluid will stay a longer time on the penis, and the longer they stay, the longer they stay, the easier it makes for the HIV to enter into the person. That's why you'll find men being at a lower risk of HIV entry as compared to females, because females normally receive the fluids through their vagina. So the fluid will stay a longer time in contact with the genital mucosa of the female as compared to the male. But for the uncircumcised person, the virus entry is very easy because the prepuce encloses vaginal fluids after intercourse, increases the time that is in contact with the HIV virus, and thus increases the entry of the virus to the inner part, or to the bloodstream of that person. Another thing is that it contains these cells that act as receptors, this prepuce or the foreskin. Then this also foreskin normally increases the surface area under which the HIV can be entered or absorbed into the bloodstream. Another thing is that this membrane of the prepuce is very weak, such that the HIV can easily enter into the bloodstream of the person. So I think this will be the end. That will be the end of today's lecture, unless you have a question. So do you have any question? Mera, are you okay?
Yes, I'm okay.
Okay, Alvin, any question?
No, I'm good.
Okay, so I think that will be the end of the lecture. So I'll post the question on the 5th topic. So look at the question on the 5th topic and then prepare for next week for presentation. Is it okay?
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, but I don't know whether it will be possible. Do you have laptops, or what are you using for classes?
Phone.
You using your phone, so I think it will be, then you will have just to post your discussions. I'll post this as a discussion. So I don't know whether you know how to post your discussion topics on discussion forums. Have you been shown?
No.
What you do, you go to the discussion topic that is posted. You click on the topic of that discussion. Once you click, you'll find an option asking you add a new topic, a blue option. You click to that add a new topic. Once you click to that add a new topic, that's where you either type or you even attach from another folder from your phone or your laptop, like an attachment in an email. So you attach and then you post to the forum. So each and every person from the class will be able to see what you have posted. I want the assignment to be like a discussion where we are exchanging ideas on the topic that I'll post. Is it okay?
Okay.
Yeah. So that's how, and then remember, this is an assignment that will earn you marks. So don't think this is a discussion forum that will not earn you marks. I'll not give any other assignment. This will be the assignment 1, and then I'll give an assignment 2 later. So have a lovely week. Let's meet next week.